Dr. Prakash Javadekar. Kindly rename yourself
Guys,
as Prakash Javadekar.
we are live on YouTube now.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Vimal sir, I'm making you the host. I will just come back in half a minute.
Okay. No worries.
Make me the co-host.
Oh yeah. Where are you? Wait. Perfect. I have made it a co-host. Yeah.
Perfect. Just give me 2 minutes.
No issues.
Okay, so the count is 20. We'll start at 30. The count reaches the 30. Okay.
Yeah. Haragya, kindly mute yourself, please.
Also, the delegates are requested to rename yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll just start in next 2 to 3 minutes, right? Next 2 to 3 minutes we'll start.
Vimal sir, is my screen visible,
And
right?
it's a request. Sorry. Yeah, Haragya, your screen is visible.
Just right now. Now is it visible? I have done to full mode.
Mm-hmm.
Or no?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Sir, I think we should not use this because the speaker will not be spotlighted else.
Okay, okay,
Kavish,
Moses.
as of
I will
now,
do that.
leave it as of now.
Okay, okay. Yeah, as of now, it's non-official.
Okay. I request everyone, include the secretariat members, the delegates, the executive board members, and the guest speakers and the chief guest. If possible, kindly turn your cameras on, right? It will be very feasible as we are also live on YouTube. So I guess please switch your cameras on. It will really be grateful. Thank you. Okay, I'll just check all the technical issues and we'll start in the next minute. So, guys, a request for the last time, please turn your cameras on. And if still anyone wishes to say anything, kindly raise your hand. You'll be recognized as due to some security purposes. We have not given permission to everyone to speak. Uh, yeah. So, yes. Okay, so we'll start with the closing ceremony now, right? So first of all, very good evening, everyone, and greetings to all the guest speakers over here and the chief guest of our closing ceremony, Mr. Dali Tenhove, the UN 75 speaker. Thank you, sir, for your benign presence in this Emergent MUN and sparing your time with us. Also, yeah. So, well, I would like to just say that the Emergent Model United Nations went with so enthusiastic delegates, so enthusiastic executive board members, and so good secretariat members that it was all a smooth ride of 2 days. And it went very successful as far as I am concerned. Not taking much of your time, I'll just head with the further proceedings. And I would like to invite our chief guest, Mr. Dali Tenhove, giving a brief introduction. Mr. Dali is a consultant to the United Nations 75th anniversary team and the researcher on the memories of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Resolved Uniting Nations in a Divided World to be published in 2021. He is a board member of the United Nations Association of the Netherlands and a former trustee of the UNA UK. He has a master's in international relations from Oxford University. I present the floor to you, sir.
Thank you, Bimal. And hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be with you. I'm always interested and happy to participate with Model UN events like this because I myself did Model UN for more than 10 years. So I'm a great supporter of the concept of Model UN, and I'm always happy to speak with people involved in it. I really do think, if I can just say one more thing about Model UN, I think it's the most successful public outreach tool that the United Nations has. There's nothing like it to stir excitement among young people and an interest in multilateralism and the UN. And I think it's just a really great activity for you to learn about pressing global issues, and not just specifically the global issues that you're discussing, but it also teaches you important skills like thinking critically, like speaking with others in public. These are things that are important for you regardless of what you're going to do in your life. And hopefully also you will learn the values of the UN and the importance of multilateralism, of cooperation, and you can bring that with you again, in whatever walk of life you're going into. I'm happy to take questions afterwards. I'm always more interested to have a conversation and a dialogue than me just giving you a lecture, basically. But so I'll just tell you a little bit about UN 75, which is the office that I work with and the initiative that I work with. So I work in the long form. It's the Office of the Special Advisor to the Secretary General for the United Nations 75th anniversary. So this year is the 75th anniversary of UN, officially UN 75 on the 24th of October, which is a milestone because if you think about it, I'm not sure how many of you are with history or with the history of global governance. But before the United Nations, there was another organization called the League of Nations, founded after the First World War, and that failed basically after 20 years. We obviously have the Second World War. So the fact that the United Nations has made it to 75, that we haven't had the Third War, that is actually cause for celebration. But that said, when the Secretary General launched the UN 75 initiative that I work with at the beginning of this year in January, he did so specifically because he did not think that the 75th anniversary is or should just be a celebration. He recognized the fact that this is a uniquely challenging time in world affairs, which was true before the pandemic, and obviously it's more true now since the onset of COVID-19. It's a uniquely challenging time because we have a whole spectrum of challenges that are arising, like obviously the pandemic. And the challenges that we already had before are becoming worse and worse as time goes on. And that is most definitively true of climate change. We're not doing enough to combat climate change. And every day, really, that we're not tackling climate change sufficiently, it gets entrenched and it becomes more difficult to tackle. So against this backdrop of a multiplication of challenges and the deepening of existing challenges, the Secretary General launched UN 75 as something new and bold that the organization would do, to really go out there and hold consultations with people all around the world, to just talk to regular folks. The UN is, as you all know, an organization of member states. So the main interlocutor for the UN and for the Secretary General are the ambassadors, like the permanent representative of India to the United Nations, who supposedly represents 1.2 billion people. But on this occasion, the Secretary General felt that we should go out there and speak directly with people. And that's really what the UN 75 initiative is about. So we spent 10 or 11 months now talking with people, holding dialogues to get people's views. And this will ultimately feed into a strategic plan for the future of the UN that the Secretary General will be launching next summer. And really what we're trying to do here is to make the UN less of a faceless bureaucracy, more of an open institution that's more accountable to people around the world, and that really responds to people's wishes, to make it responsive to the aspirations of the public, which is, incredibly important. I would encourage you to be a part of this initiative. Again, this is an open initiative. Everybody can be a part of it. There's two ways that you can get involved. And if you're interested to get involved, I would say hurry up, because it's almost the end of the year. And unfortunately, we're going to have to close down at the end of the year. There's two ways. There's a survey that you can take, very small, very short. It takes about a minute or 2 minutes to fill in. You can also host UN 75 dialogues. I'm not going to go into the details of what that involves, but it's on our website. You can go there. You can organize a discussion with a group of people at your school, at your university, among friends, family, doesn't matter. you then send us a summary of your discussion and we read it. We read your summary, it feeds into the drafting of the Secretary General's strategic plan. So really, this is a unique opportunity to directly influence the future of the World Organization. So we would very much encourage you to take part. I'll be putting links in the chat. So yeah, that's my little spiel. If there's any questions or any other way that we can have an open discussion, I'm more than happy to. That's it, Vimal. You can take it again.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir, about all the information you gave to us, and thank you for the link. We'll just definitely go there. Also, delegates, now it's a request. If you have any questions from Dali, sir, you can just raise your hands. We'll recognize you, and you can ask those questions. If anyone has, kindly raise your hands.
It can be about anything, by the way. I'm happy to speak to any aspect of the UN, whether it's something you discussed in your committee or if you're interested in UN 75, or it doesn't matter.
Okay, anyone from the secretariat wishes to ask a question? Oh, yes. Mr. Nitin Gatkadi. I have given the option to unmute. Kindly unmute yourself and go ahead with the
Yeah,
question.
sir, I'm audible, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Sir, I just wanted to know that that how you started your journey with UN 75. How was your uh, journey along with till now, from beginning till now?
Sorry, I wasn't hearing you too well. Can you say that one more time? Hello?
Yeah, sir.
Uh, just repeat your question, I guess. That's what he's
Yeah,
asking.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I think your voice is lacking or cracking in me.
Dali, sir, actually, really sorry, but your voice is
Sorry,
cracking.
I think Gotcha. Let me join on my phone. My phone is always there at the King connection. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just join it from a device. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong. My laptop sometimes has problems connecting to the Wi-Fi, and somehow my phone is fine. So I'm sorry if I'm not wasting too much of your time now with my connection issues.
No, no, no.
I'd like to hear the question. I wasn't able to hear it before.
Yeah, sir. Sir, I just wanted to ask that how your journey started and till beginning from it with you and sir.
Do you mean as in my life story? How I joined the UN, or
Yeah, sir.
specifically UN?
Yeah, 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 sir.
Yeah, well, it started with Model UN, really. I started Model UN when I was 14 and really loved it immediately. I always had an interest in international affairs. I didn't really know much about the United Nations when I started MUN, but the more I read about the organization, while prepping for MUN debates, I really admired the thinking behind United Nations. I felt like I recognized the necessity of an organization that convenes countries to cooperate together. And over time, my interest in the UN grew. So, I focused on that at university, interned with the UN, read more about the organization. So yeah, progressively. But yeah, basically it started with MUN.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that beautiful answer. Well, I guess, is there anyone else? Okay, yeah. UNCSW Namibia. You can just unmute yourself and ask a question.
Greetings, sir.
Go
It's an
ahead.
honor to have you. So my question is very simple. What tips would you give a delegate like me or like others to actually reach to the stage where you stand right now? I mean, you were once at our stage. You were delegating in a model UN. Now we're doing that. That's it, sir.
Um, it's slightly difficult to say because the UN is, to be honest, the hiring system or how you get to work with the UN is very convoluted. It's not very rational. It's not like a normal company where there's a web page. They say that apply here. It's a bit messy, to be honest with you. There's all sorts of budgetary implications, all sorts of geographic necessities, like an office needs to be balanced in terms of where the employees come from. So there isn't one clear path, But aside from that, I guess insofar as I can give advice, it is be passionate about what you care about, whether it is the UN as a whole and multilateralism as a whole, or whether it is a specific issue area like climate change or democracy promotion, the rights of indigenous peoples. If you work hard on the issue area that you care about, I would say two things on that. One, it doesn't matter whether you're with the UN or not. There's a lot of organizations out there that do fantastic work, that do better work than the UN often enough, and the UN relies on those kinds of organizations. So yeah, don't necessarily focus on the UN, I would say, but on the other hand, if you're really passionate about the issue area that you work on, and that you do great work in that area, sooner or later you will be recognized, by the UN at some point. So even though the entry pathway is very convoluted, a bit messy, unclear, you'll get there at some point if you just keep up the flame of your passion. Sounds a bit corny, but there you go.
So yeah, thank you. So the next question, there's a person who has typed it in the chat box. I'll read that out for you. So the MDGs set out by the UN had fallen short of the target set. Similarly, the target set out for 2030 also are very difficult to meet considering how the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed us so behind. For example, in the G20 nations, only India has met its commitments under the Paris Agreement. How does UN plan to encourage or boost the member states so that at its 85th anniversary in 2030, things go as set out? Hence, how can the international community be sure that the SDGs will be a success? Because even till date, many member nations continue to ignore or provide data on the mentioned target. And it seems very, very difficult.
Yeah, no, that's a really excellent question, and it gets at something that's on the forefront of the mind of Antonio Guterres, the SG. That's not my area of expertise, and I think that even if you were talking to the Secretary General right now, I think he would struggle to give you a clear answer, because it is very difficult, and ultimately it's the overarching purpose of the UN. So basically, to ask how will the UN achieve the SDGs is asking how will the UN be successful, which is a very broad question. You could spend writing 5 or 6 books on that. But yes, no, you're totally right. The SDGs were not being met before COVID-19, and since COVID-19, progress has been regressive even. So we're going backwards in terms of we're going further away from where we want to get than we are reaching it. What will the UN do? I mean, it's really tough, I think it gets at what can the UN do on anything at any time, right? The United Nations doesn't have power. It doesn't have the military capacities, the economic capacities, or the legislative capacities to force something ahead. What the United Nations wants, it cannot achieve by any other means than through soft power, by bringing people together, by convincing them, by persuading them, by trying to find some kind of common purpose between all the disparate priorities of different countries. So all that the United Nations and the Secretary General can do is, one, convince nations that it's important for them to meet their commitments. All the UN can do is provide technical advice. So, especially for countries that do not have great research capacities, no great statistical ability to invest in the research to find out where is the need greatest. That's where the UN comes in to provide that support. And another important function of the United Nations is to bring different actors together. So bring the business community within the framework of the SDGs, to provide the kinds of investment that say smaller countries aren't necessarily able to bring. So that's kind of the functions that the United Nations can play. But by and large, that's a supportive role, right? It's not spearheading it. Or, we spearheaded the creation of the SDGs, but we cannot spearhead the execution of it. So that's really up to countries themselves, up to companies themselves, and ultimately up to people themselves, like you, to put pressure on your governments, through your local officials, through your parliaments, and obviously through the national government, to make good on commitments. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that. It's not a clear answer to the question, but that's just the general framework that we operate in.
Okay. So yes, thank you, sir. And delegates, I'm really sorry, but as of now, we are just due to time constraints, we are taking. This was the last question, right? Thank you, Dali sir, for sparing your time and being a part of Emergent MU1 and giving such information to the delegates. It was really, really informative. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Well, now moving forward, calling the next guest speaker of Emergent Model United Nations, we have with us is Mr. Sailesh Singhal. Mr. Sailesh Singhal is a global youth activist, community mobilizer, and strategist, advocating for accountability, transparency, and youth engagement in the development discourse. In an effort to endorse intergovernmental bipartisan cooperation for egalitarian sustainability, he has been promoting a cohesive framework for sustainable development. Over to you, sir.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me here. And I am so happy to be joining all the young people from across the country, especially. And I'm so happy, with the name itself, Emergent MUN, reminds me of something that we are. I mean, this is the generation of young people, and this is the generation of emerging leaders. And I'm excited to be joining. And that is why, even while being on the roads, I'm on the borders of India and Bhutan, and that is and still, I was very much persistent that I need to join and speak with each one of you for a very matter of fact, because it is the generation where the young people are the leaders today. And while it is being said that, I remind myself once more that the international organizations need to realize, I mean, whichever organizations that we can think of, national organizations need to realize that we're not the leaders of tomorrow, but the leaders of today. And that is why more the responsibility lies on us. If language isn't a problem, and if I can be bilingual, which I really prefer as well. I mean, as I was getting introduced, I was thinking, am I really a strategist? Am I really a decision maker? And when we think of that, it reminds me and gets me back to something what MUN stands for. If you see MUN, I mean, and I would take you onto something very interesting. If you see M could stand for modest. And when you see about the modesty and how we can connect to the entire modern United Nations, if you see, you know, the entire process of modern United Nations teaches us the very values of being modest. When I say modest, it doesn't mean that you're not diplomatic. All have to be diplomatic to get our papers passed, to get our communities. But this is one of those qualities that reminds us and teaches us. And then when you go to it teaches us to be united. And I'm so happy, despite this pandemic, despite everything that has happened, more sessions like this inspired us to stay united. As a matter of fact, when we say that, when the prime minister of India launched that Atmanirbhar Bharat, or go become vocal for local, what did it stand for? It stood for being localized. It stood for कि आत्मनिर्भर होके हमें विश्व तक पहुंचना है. And that is what exactly even Amina Mohammed has been talking about. She has been mentioning time and again that we need to go to the local products to find the sustainable solutions. And having said that, it reminds me of such a beautiful story that I would like to share with each one of you. While I was participating last year in the United Nations General Assembly in the Youth Climate Action Summit, तो हम सब यहाँ पर जो भी हैं, let me see if all of us, okay, so I will be bilingual here. And I was there, and while I had a chance to meet His Excellency Secretary General of United Nations, Sir Antonius Brutus, I presented him with a कुल्हड़. हम सब वो ग्लास हम सब वो मट्टी की ग्लास में, कुल्हड़ में हमने चाय पिया होगा. और जब मैंने उनको वो ग्लास दिया, तो उन्होंने उस ग्लास को ग्लास ऑफ द सेंचुरी की तरह, या पूरे इंटरनेशनल मीडिया ने कवरेज किया. नाउ रियलाइज वो ग्लास कौन बना रहा है? हु आर क्यूरेटिंग दिस ग्लासेस आर बीइंग क्यूरेटेड बाय द पीपल इन द विलेजेस. एंड दैट इज एग्जैक्टली वेयर द लोकल सॉल्यूशंस लाई. So, I mean, that is one of them which I really think, and that is how we have been united. इसी तरह, so उसके बाद अगर हम देखें, तो it is about N, and N is the natural. It is very important. Speech complete हुआ? And ये बहुत important है कि हम N से natural रहें. और पूरे मॉडल यूनाइटेड नेशंस के प्रोसेस में हमें नेचुरल रहना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. उसी के साथ अगर हम रियलाइज करें, तो जितने भी लोकल सॉल्यूशंस रहते हैं, वो हमारे गांव से आते हैं, वो हमारे लोकल प्रोडक्ट से आते हैं. और बार बार हमें इस पूरे मॉडल यूनाइटेड नेशंस के प्रोसेस, आई थिंक व्हाट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड is that we identify such people, we identify such local solutions and take them at the national and then at the global level. Because today, more than ever, United Nations need India. More than ever, international organizations need India. And when that will happen, let me remind you once again, it is the young people of India today. It is a youth, you and I today, who are making policies, who are thinking into a different level altogether. मुझे पूरे विश्व में आत्मनिर्भर भारत, आज आत्मनिर्भर भारत is not just a political slogan. It is a clarion call for every individual across the world. And it is repackaged in the way that the United Nations think for. And it is so beautiful to say that today, I mean, जब मैं last year United Nations General Assembly में था, मैं आपसे एक बहुत अच्छा incident share करता हूँ. तो वहाँ पर मुझे advisor of Secretary General से मिलने का मौका मिला, and I presented him with a khadi cloth. And when I gave him that cloth, there was this abrupt, you know, remark that I don't know why, but India is rising globally. Yes, it is rising globally. And it is you and I who need to take it forward into sessions like this that we need to take it through. And it is exactly when we go out now, our voices will be concerned and will be mattered. And let us, for the concluding remark, I would like to remind once again solutions, staying united as our cultures have been talking about. कहा गया है, स्वस्मै स्वल्पम समाजया सर्वस्वम, meaning little bit for oneself and everything was for the society. And that is exactly what even this pandemic has taught us. Going back to the one of the questions that was being asked on environment, which I was part of and listening to, and being an activist, climate activist specifically, our cultures have once again given us the best of solutions. Mata Bhumi Putroham Prithviha, which defines the relationship between the nature and the human being, like that of a child and a mother. That there is sentimental values that each one of us have towards connecting all the 17 development goals that the United Nations talk about. Today, we don't need to go forward. Yes, we will go forward, but we can only go forward with our ancient cultural values. And if that is taken ahead, let us forget everything. India will not only be sustainable, but it will be the golden pioneer and the golden bird that we've always been about. Thank you so much for having me here, and to all the amazing delegates who have given their time and participated in such a fantastic model United Nations. I'm really looking forward to working with each one of you across the country, especially all these young people who have vision to not only carry forward the work of United Nations ahead, but to also take India's leadership at the global level. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, sir, for such beautiful remarks. And I know you are traveling. Thank you so much, sir. Well, moving forward, I now request our next guest speaker from the dais, Mr. Keshav Gupta. Mr. Keshav Gupta is a graduate of law from Delhi University. He's the founder of the dais, an organization that works to achieve sustainable development goals. He is currently also the president of the International Center for Sustainable Development. Keshav has been a part of the MUN circuit for over 12 years now, and today works with the youth of multiple projects related to awareness, sustainable development, and emergent of the youth. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Vimal. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good evening to everyone who's tuned in from India, and afternoon and morning to those coming in from the West. So it's a great opportunity to be here. Let me just thank you first and congratulate you for such a great initiative. I think that the two speakers have made some very insightful remarks, very relevant remarks already. So I want to keep sort of my discussion points on certain contexts where I see the world today, and moving ahead, where does a model UN and then all the delegates, where do we come into this picture? And I want to touch upon um, a little bit of, for instance, what we have done and how that transition between the UN and model UN has been. So, so we started out as the Dias about in 2014. So we are completing about 6 years now as an organization. And I did my first model UN back in 2008. I remember going from Delhi all the way to Manipal, to attend a model UN conference. And I attended a lot of them. I was very happy because I was, learning so much about these issues. But at a certain point, the debate part of it started really worrying me that we are talking too much and really not doing anything. And at some point, I started disliking Model UN, as to why does this activity exist? People are wearing suits and just pretending to be people who they can't be, at certain points. And then I think I went back to the UN, and now I work with the UNDP at some points for certain projects to train young people. And during the pandemic, we have hosted quite a few UN agencies for multiple conversations on and quite a few UN 75 dialogues we've been involved with as well. So the only one thing I've learned is that ultimately, what is the UN trying to do? It is trying to take care of the people of the world, right? What is the government trying to do? It is also trying to take care of the people of the world, of their own citizens. So, what is it that we can do today in our respective spaces to help people out? When SDGs sort of took the forefront of the policy at the UN, this very important word that the Secretary General had said, that has still stayed with me, and I always talk about it, is no one left behind, right? So I think the one question is, who are we leaving behind in our everyday decisions, and uh, who do we leave behind as a nation in our policies? Who do we leave behind as communities in this development process when we decide to cut a forest? Do we leave behind the tribals? Do we leave behind concerns for the environment? Who are we really leaving behind? And during the COVID pandemic, it has taught us that we are all really connected to each other. Someone else's irresponsible behavior can cause you COVID if they are not wearing a mask and they end up coughing at you. This is not different from climate change, where somebody can erase forests in their nations, and then you have a similar repercussion in the Himalayas. In the so the interconnectedness of all of us is something that I think has become very, very clear during the pandemic time. Since the last year, we have also been working as an organization very closely with Fridays for Future. Uh, and you might have heard of Greta as one of the young people who went out there and caused ripples, I think, around the world. Malala is just another example, and I think all of you are no different than them, because what you have within you is a recognition that there is something wrong. Otherwise, why would you be here doing Model UN and debating about problems of the world if problems didn't exist? So I think where you've already done well is that you recognize that there are certain global problems which need solutions. Uh, and as the previous speaker, Mr. Dali, had already said, that at your local level, what are those problems? So so this is something that is very important, that if you develop through Model UN the right mindset of empathy, of compassion, of collaboration in solving your day-to-day problems in a classroom, in a physical setting around you, then you know, when you become a college student, what kind of impact do you make at a college level? What kind of an impact can you make when you join from college to another place, right? You don't have to be at the UN to do what the UN is doing, because all the UN is trying to do is to ensure that we have a dignified life for people. So if you have somebody around you, UN is not going to reach them. You will have to reach them. And that is how you go ahead and do what the UN does. You have to understand that as young people, all of us are moving forward in our lives, whether it's from grade 9 to grade 10, or a undergraduate degree that I did in economics to a transition in law, and from a transition in law to an entrepreneur, for instance, or a policy maker. But if I'm a bad person who does not follow ethics as a child, I will probably continue to do that tomorrow, and then the next day. And then when the question comes, do I want to cut a forest or do I want to save a forest? I will go for cutting the forest down. So you have to understand that the change begins today. The change begins now with all of you, and it also reflects into Model UN. You've often seen that when delegates are speaking, then the only thing we want to do is find the best point of information or a point of order or a rebuttal to make, rather than trying to really see what they're saying and then trying to see how we can collaborate. So when we keep things competitive, when we keep things in a way that x plus y has to be some 24, right? So X will increase, Y will fall. But that is not how the world works. The world will only work if we are collaborating. If we stop seeing ourselves as just India, if we stop seeing ourselves as just America, or if we stop seeing ourselves as just Hindu or Muslim or any identity, we have to start recognizing ourselves as people first, people of the world who are facing quite a few challenges today. As rightly pointed out, the SDGs are nowhere close to being achieved. And again, you can't blame the UN. It's not cutting down trees. It's the member states who are responsible for the domestic laws. UN can't do much in those spaces. So so your own roles as voters become important. Your own roles as people who can sensitize others on these issues become important. And trust me, the UN will only be as strong as you are. And when I say you, that means you as in the youth of India, the youth of Pakistan, the youth of United Kingdom, the youth of United States of America, of South Africa, of Zimbabwe, of every member nation. So we are only as strong as the weakest member that we have, because that defines the level of human rights that we achieve, the dignity that we are able to give to people. So for me, I think the whole process of Model UN fails when we go out of this place and start being rude to people all over again. When UN is telling you no one left behind and you decide to see a poor person and you still leave them when you can help them, it does not mean you give them everything that you have, right? The idea of sustainability and inclusion is about the mindset also, about the attitude also, that what are we doing to make sure that these conferences, for instance, are inclusive. For instance, now whenever we are doing any initiative, we have stopped charging registration fee as the dias, and we have done about 40-50 events through the entire pandemic, and we have not charged a single penny. And we have seen that there are students who are more willing to attend because they have an opportunity now that they don't have to keep asking for money from their parents. So all of a sudden you see that that we have only foregone some amount of money that would have come to us, but it has given opportunity to more people to come in and voice their opinions. And that's just a very small starting point of what we thought we could do. And it's probably because we can afford to do it because of our own privilege, right? But I don't have the privilege of clean air in Delhi. I've done 200 MUNs and still I don't have clean air in Delhi. Uh, and I've probably won many awards, but still I can't go out in Delhi without a mask. And there is nothing that I can do about it, more than, simply be take those precautions and hope that others are taking those precautions. So I think my last thing that I want to say is that while you empower yourselves, try to also empower as many other people as you can. And that empowerment is not about just handing them money. Today, all the more, it's about respect. It's about a sense of dignity. It's about a sense of togetherness, a sense of connectedness in the suffering that the world is facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change and wars, hunger, especially when it comes to children. We have seen a massive dropout rate in schools, not only in the Asian region, but in the Latin American region, in the Caribbean region. We have seen poor kids don't have access to online education at all. Can we as young people do something about it? I think. And in a conclusion, what is the role of young people in this today? You have to understand that the UN is not great at technology. Just like anyone else is struggling with working from home, everyone at the UN is struggling from working from home. They are facing the same challenges that you are, except that you guys know technology. You guys can do online campaigns very easily. You guys can reach out to your local youth more easily. So you are more powerful than the UN when it comes to impact in your localities, wherever you're based. So if you go ahead and talk about your agenda in your area, and I'm not talking about a Syrian war, but what is the suffering in the Syrian war? It's the conflict in the Syrian war. It's the poverty in the Syrian war. It's the human rights which are being violated. So it does not matter what the tagline is, whether it's Syria or Palestine or India or Pakistan. The suffering of one human being is the same suffering that you feel the same pain that anyone else does, right? You feel the same thirst that anyone else has, and you feel the same want for equality that anyone else has. So I think Model UN is a great platform to start out, to know about these issues, and just keep at it. Just be yourselves, keep at these opportunities, and there is only one United Nations. So invariably, you will all converge there when your impact is there. And even if you don't make it to the UN, don't worry. Mahatma Gandhi did not, I think, attend the UN as much as we think, and he's still a great guy. I hope that we all recognize that. So thank you so much, and thank you so much. That's all.
Uh, thank you very much, sir. Also, now delegates, we have a beautiful interactive session with Mr. Sailesh Singhal, sir, a guest speaker. Due to some technical issues, we couldn't have that before. Now, I request Sailesh, sir, if he's here, to kindly, we'll have an interactive session. So, whosoever wishes to ask a question from him, kindly raise your hands and we'll recognize you and you can ask a question. Okay, so yes, Ragya Singh, you have been given the option to unmute.
Okay, thank you, Vimal. A very good evening, Sailesh sir. My name is Ragya Singh, and I have a very basic question, which would definitely address to the whole globe as a whole. Sir, like we have seen the UN 75 dialogues, and even the completely appreciate the DICE and the youth of India, like how these organization is been working to promote the achieving the fulfillment of SDG 2030. So, but one thing is that just a question, me being an immuner also arises. That is, so the one thing, like the immunes are being happening, right? But the resolutions or sort of the ideas which youth are giving at that platform are not being sent to the, or you can say are being not revised by the United Nations, like revised, not being verified by the United Nations, that what the young mind is saying, irrespective of the fact, like how the international politics is being taken into play, either in the they are playing the proxies, rather the global voice is not being reaching there, like that is the pathway has not been created of the MUNs in basic, their resolutions or their viewpoints to the United Nations. So sir, like how sir, can you just guide how the we can promote at that platform that the resolutions and the ideas are being sent to the United Nations, or there any subsidiary body which can verify that? So this is
Right.
just the question. Yeah.
Perfect. Haragya, thank you so much for that question. And I'm really happy that you've put that across. One thing is very essential to understand is that, I mean, I'm not having my video on because of the traveling that I'm doing. So one thing that we really need to understand is that when this formation of United Nations happened, India as a country stood for something very valuable, even during this foundation. And we have always stood for promoting ideas, strengthening global cooperation, creating a force that brings a win-win situation for everyone. And I will tell you why I'm saying that. And even to this today, when the Prime Minister of India, being the head of state, went to the, in this very global pandemic, when he mentioned the statement during the General Assembly of 75 of the United Nations, he said it very clearly that we need two things. I mean, one thing very specifically was the Security Council reforms, and that is good. Second, which I would like to remind each one of us, was that again, 75, 50, 100 years back as well, which we stood for, that even today with this pandemic, that India is ready to provide all the necessary, even the vaccine, if it is prepared by any country across the world, to everyone across the world as well. And we don't stand for ourselves alone. We stand for everyone. Now, why I'm trying to connect this with what you asked me is because that today, world counts on India. Yes, what you mentioned is a challenge. And I see what even Swami Vivekananda has mentioned, coming from the land of West Bengal myself, an inspiration for a lot of young people and for all the youth of India across. He said that problems are not problems, they are opportunities to prove our worth. And I'm so glad that we have realized that this is a challenge. And this rising era of golden come together in finding out ways where we can identify, and while we are making such reports of virtual MUNs or online MUNs, we create a report and send it to the concerned ministries as well. We create a report and send it to the concerned Prime Minister's office as well. Being a part of this entire system, I realized one thing very aesthetic is to the highest of offices, not only to the Prime Minister's office as well, but also to the United Nations. Let us utilize technology and social media to the best of our abilities. And why? And that, I mean, let us, and that will really help us to make our voices heard. And I will be very strong advocate to say now, with responsibility, I'm saying that the Prime Minister's office is one of those effective offices that I have come across. The grievances of ministers. If you have some ideas and solutions, and I'm giving you with my word, write it down to the Prime Minister's pages. I mean, there are a lot of government as well. Write it down to the Prime Minister's grievance. That will be appreciated and accepted. Because while he was mentioning, I was so happy, and I'm going to Zimbabwe, youth of India, youth of Nepal, to the history. And when we realize that the geographical regions of this great nation, we, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and all of these that we part of, we had written down a suggestions to the Ministry of External Affairs, and then that was put forward to the Prime Minister's office as well. And what I'm trying to say is that we didn't have any connections there. We just used the best mediums of social media and information technology, and we put it across. So what I would like to mention and suggest each one of you, that while we are creating all these documents of, while we discuss and create, let us create some actionable points. हम अधिकतर ये करते हैं कि हम चाइना के बारे में डिस्कस कर रहे हैं और हम चाइना को बदल देंगे या चाइना में सप्लाई या परचेस करना बंद कर देंगे, ऐसा भी आइडियाज कभी कभी आता है. But now let us try to find out actionable points, and if such actionable points are there, then please reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to strengthen and focus on that. Also, as an institution, Youth of India, we have realized, and having that special accreditation by United Nations, one of the 174 organizations which has got the special accreditation by United Nations for 2020, we will put forward the suggestions to the departments of influence as well. One of the very important departments is the Department of Global Communication, and that is one of the effective departments I have come across. We will surely reach out to them, share all those ideas which come to us, and that is how we will work together. What I really want to push to each one of you is make actionable points. If there is no opportunity that you find, please reach out to us through Kavish, who is also part of this MUN, and let us take it ahead, because there is something that we can collectively do together.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir.
I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
So
sir. It completely
I guess
answers.
the next question we'll take is by the delegate of Russian Federation. Sir, you may unmute yourself and kindly ask your question. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I just had this question. I too appreciate the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme given out by the government and the idea behind it, Saresh sir. But I actually had some doubts on how India as a nation will try to achieve it, because in Atmanirbhar भी आपको पता होगा कि currently our society का structure ही ऐसा है, हमारी society का कि हम आत्मनिर्भर डायरेक्टली ऐसे ही नहीं बन सकते ना ओवरनाइट. वी आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन सो मेनी थिंग्स, वेदर इट बी एक्सपोर्टिंग और इम्पोर्टिंग. आज तक आप समझो हमारा चाइना के साथ स्टैंड ऑफ हो भी रहा है. आई अंडरस्टैंड कि इट इज अ मॉरल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कि हाँ हमें करना चाहिए, बट ऐसा हो नहीं सकता कि हम सारे बॉयकॉट चाइना और उनके प्रोडक्ट्स बंद कर दे, क्योंकि इकोनॉमी में वो फिर भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. चाहे हम इट्स मे बी लाइक अ काइंड ऑफ बिटर ट्रुथ, बट है इम्पोर्टेंट. तो वही. और क्या है कि आत्मनिर्भर अगेन एक सेंट्रल काइंड ऑफ स्कीम हो गया. मेनी स्टेट, जैसे आपका ही स्टेट ले लीजिए वेस्ट बंगाल, उधर की जो गवर्नमेंट है उनको बिल्कुल भी पसंद नहीं आ रहा है कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कैसे फंक्शन कर रही है, और उनको लग रहा है कि फेडरलिज्म के स्ट्रक्चर को ही धक्का लग रहा है। तो दीज मेनी स्टेट्स आर बॉयकॉटिंग द सेंटर का स्कीम, ना ही उनको डेटा प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे हैं। तो ऐसे सिनेरियो में लाइक क्या कर सकता है अगर कोई स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी, और समझो हम कभी उनको प्रपोजल भेजते हैं कोई कॉन्फ्रेंस में, तो अगर हमने समझो उनको बोला भी, तो वो कैसे ट्राई करेंगे करने का?
ओके, फैंटास्टिक। ये सवाल मेरे बहुत दिल के करीब सवाल है, और मुझे इतना अच्छा लगता है जब भी कोई सिमिलर चेहरा, खास करके आपका चेहरा तो बहुत सिमिलर लग रहा है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के बारे में बात करता है। और वो इसलिए भी, सबसे पहले मैं बता दूं, क्योंकि आप रशियन फेडरेशन से, तो मुझे एक बहुत अच्छा एक उनका लाइन याद आया, बोल्शोय स्पासिबो, मतलब थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दिस क्वेश्चन, और कोई मतलब नहीं है, सो डोंट थिंक टू मच अबाउट इट। Now, when you asked me about आत्मनिर्भर भारत, मुझे एक बात बताने में बहुत अच्छा लगता, कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है आत्मनिर्भर भारत। मतलब अगर आप इसको अच्छे से हम सब समझे, ये कोई स्कीम नहीं है। और इसको अगर हम लोग इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन करें तो इसका मतलब है सेल्फ रिलायंट इंडिया। क्या भारत पहली बार सेल्फ रिलायंट इंडिया के बारे में बात कर रहा है? नहीं। हम एकदम पीछे चले जाएं। अगर हम ये मानते हैं कि भारत का विकास गांवों में रहता है, क्योंकि बहुत जन कहते हैं इस बात को कि an India, a nation like India can develop if we develop its villages. अगर ये बात सही है, और अगर हम गांव का इकोनॉमिक यूनिट देखें, कल्चरल यूनिट देखें, आत्मनिर्भर भारत मतलब अगर आप सेल्फ रिलायंट होता तो क्या क्या चाहिए, पैरामीटर्स क्या है सेल्फ रिलायंट के? इकोनॉमी होना चाहिए, कल्चर होना चाहिए, एजुकेशन होना चाहिए, हेल्थ होना चाहिए, मोटा मोटा यही भाग है, करेक्ट? आखिर यही सारे अगर भाग हैं, तो आप समझिए हमारे पुराने समय में, एंशिएंट समय में वो सारे चीज रहते थे। तो ये कुछ नया नहीं। अब इसको हम कैसे करेंगे? ये खाली थॉट है। सारा दिन प्रोग्राम आज हम कोई चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट्स को बंद करने की बात नहीं कर रहे। किसने बात किया चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट्स को बंद करने के लिए? मैंने तो अभी तक आज लास्ट 6-7 महीने में प्राइम मिनिस्टर के मुंह से ये नहीं सुना कि आप चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट्स बंद कर दीजिए। तो कौन से ऐसे मीडिया एजेंसीज है जो इसको फैला रहे हैं? आत्मनिर्भर भारत मतलब है कि हम स्वयं की आत्मशक्ति भराए। आत्मा मतलब स्वयं, निर्भर मतलब डिपेंडेंट, हम अपने आप की चीजों को बढ़ाए। अब आप बात करो ना कुल्हड़, मैंने जो लास्ट भी अभी कहा आपको, जब मैं लास्ट ईयर यूनाइटेड नेशंस के स्पेशल इनवाइटी की तरह सेक्रेटरी जनरल से जब मैं मिला, तब मैंने उनको खाली कुल्हड़ प्रेजेंट किया। कुल्हड़ कहाँ बनता है? हर भारत के हर कोने जगह में कुल्हड़ मिलते हैं। मैंने उनको जब प्रेजेंट किया तो उन्होंने पूछा ये क्या है? मैंने कहा ये सर, ये मिट्टी के एक बर्तन है, भारत की भूमि से बनी हुई है। अब इसको आप यूज कीजिए, इसको आप वॉश कीजिए, आप इसको चाहे यूज कर सकते हो। जब आपका मन पूरा हो जाए तो आप इसको मिट्टी में फेंक दीजिए और ये मिल जाएगा। अब वो कुल्हड़ तो वर्ल्ड के world media covered it as the glass of the century. Now tell me, wouldn't that be a matter of pride for a young Indian like me? क्या वो मैं बना, जो वो कुम्हार बना रहा है, वो कभी सोचा बोला जा सकता है? मेरा कहने के लिए कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है, कोई ऐसा कोई केमिस्ट्री का वो नहीं है, तोड़ जोड़ नहीं है। द आइडिया इज द माइंडसेट। Mindset, and that is important. Because this is also live, I'm avoiding with one of my very strong statements. But what I want to really say is that why we shall be dependent in the outside forces? जब अगर इंडियन वैदिक साइंस अगर उसको देता है तो उसको विशुद्धा का बात नहीं हो रहा है, और हम क्या आज पहली बार बात माना है? क्यों? बिकॉज दिस पर्टिकुलर पार्ट, आई मीन वॉन्ट बी ऑलवेज वहां पर जिसको बाहर में उनको मारा भी जाता, दिस इज एग्जैक्टली to re-invite that belief in oneself. And when that is done, we don't need to worry about anything. And that is exactly where I strongly feel. I mean, I'm not sure if the government is exactly wanting this way, but I feel that this is exactly where the young people of India, like you and mine, needs to move ahead with. And we should be very thankful that we have a government like the existing one with the leadership of the prime minister, that the world is moving ahead as well. I mean, आप देखो अगर भूटान में कल परसों की बात है, जब when the prime minister launched the Rupee Bharat card with him, with the prime minister of Bhutan. I mean, this is exactly where the Atmanirbharta is going and heading towards. I hope that has answered your question.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for such great answers. Well, seeing the time constraints, we are now not entertaining any more questions. So let's move on for the most awaited moment of this whole conference, that are the awards. So I would like to request Mr. Agamjot Singh, the Rapporteur of United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, to kindly announce the UNCSW awards.
Very
Agam,
good evening,
yeah.
delegates. So, first of all, being in the committee, this was a very interesting committee, even though there were only a few delegates, but still the debate was lively and very interesting. Most of you participated, and the speeches that were given were very good. My basic purpose was to mark the chits, and while reading the chits, I could tell that all of you had researched very well. So, please don't be disheartened, because there will always be more opportunities. So the awards, as decided by Saib Noor sir, Bhavika ma'am, and myself. So we had decided to give 2 special mentions in a particular order. That special mention 2 goes to the delegate of Micronesia. Special mention 1 goes to the delegate of Namibia. Now coming to one high commendation. The high commendation is backed by the delegate of Tunisia, and the most awaited best delegate, as most of you might have guessed by now, best delegate award goes to the delegate of Russian Federation. All of you were great. I encourage you to do more and more MUNs and win more and more awards. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Agam sir, for the awards, and congratulations to all the winners. So the next, I would like to invite Mr. Utsav Kaushal, the Deputy Moderator of All India Political Parties Meet, to kindly announce the AIPPM Awards.
चलिए, तो everyone, good evening. पहले तो जो speeches सुनी मैंने guest speakers के through, I'm really sorry, I will use Hindi as a language because AIPPM is not technically a UN committee. MUN is Model United Nations, so United Nations का academic stimulation. So General Assembly, Security Council, ये सब MUN के उसमें आएंगे. In India, AIPPM is All Indian Political Party Meets, it's an additional committee जो Indian MUNs डालते हैं. So this is an academic stimulation of all party meet, जो हमारे political parties की meeting होती है, informal meeting. इसका एक academic stimulation. So ये bilingual होती है because India में it's Hindi and English, so ये bilingual committee होती है. सबसे पहले तो बहुत बहुत नमस्कार है सबको, जितने भी पार्लियामेंटेरियंस थे, पॉलिटिशियंस थे, सब लोगों ने काफी अच्छा प्रेजेंट किया अपने व्यू पॉइंट को, काफी अच्छे से डिबेट की इस चीज पे. हमारा एजेंडा था डेलिब्रेशन ऑन एजुकेशन इन इंडिया विद द स्पेशल एम्फेसिस ऑन न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020. सो जो इंडिया का एजुकेशन है पर्टिकुलरली ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, कंसिडरिंग कि हमारी एजुकेशन ग्लोबली सबसे पहले बहुत मैसिव लेवल पे शुरू हुई थी. Takshila in 700 BC, then the Nalanda University of 4th century BC. ये सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज तब बनी थी जब हमारे बाकी की कंट्रीज बिल्कुल इस तरीके की एक शेड्यूल एजुकेशन को बढ़ावा नहीं देती थी. तब से हमारी इंडियन एजुकेशन सिस्टम तब से आगे बढ़ा हुआ था. द होल वैदिक पीरियड, हमारे वेदास, तो ये एक एजुकेशन सिस्टम जो इंडिया में है वो हमारे लिए फुल ग्लोबली एक्सक्लूसिव एजुकेशन सिस्टम रह चुका है हमेशा से. और उस पे एक स्पेशल एम्फेसिस जो हमारे अभी नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है, जो आफ्टर ऑलमोस्ट 3 डेकेड्स जो एक एजुकेशन में जो एजुकेशन सिस्टम में एक चेंज आया है, जो स्ट्रीम सिस्टम हट गए हैं या एक ओवरऑल जो पूरा एक चेंज लाए, उस पर डिस्कशन कि क्या वो चेंज जरूरी था, और क्या अगर वो चेंज आया है तो वो बहुत मैसिवली आया है, उसको धीरे ग्रेजुअली लाना चाहिए था, कैसे, उस पर डिस्कशन था हमारा पूरा। ये हमारे इंडिया से बहुत पहले के टाइम से लेके आर्यभट्ट, चाणक्य, पतंजलि से लेके हमारे गांधी जी, बी आर अम्बेडकर, बहुत सारे ऐसे पॉलिटिकल और बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग निकले हैं जो पूरे वर्ल्ड में फेमस हैं, पूरे वर्ल्ड उनको प्रेस करता है, और वो इंडिया के प्रोडक्ट। ठीक है, तो इस चीज पे जो हमारी पूरी कमेटी चली, काफी अच्छी चली कमेटी। द होल मार्किंग शीट, क्योंकि अब मैं अवार्ड के साथ साथ आपको मार्क्स भी बताऊंगा, बिकॉज नॉट बिकॉज कि मैं करता हूँ ये चीज, यूजुअली मार्क्स बताता हूँ, बट मैं यहाँ पे इसलिए बताऊंगा कि ये एजेंडा ऐसा है कि हम सब स्टूडेंट्स हैं, जितने भी पार्लियामेंटेरियंस आए, पॉलिटिशियंस आए, जो मेंबर्स थे, वो सब स्टूडेंट्स हैं, और उनकी एजुकेशन, एक लाइफ का 50% अभी उनका एजुकेशन ही ले रहा है, स्कूल कॉलेजेस, इन्हीं पे उनकी लाइफ की 50% अभी डाइवर्ट हो रहा है। सो ये चीज इतना क्लोज था उनके, और उन्होंने जिस अच्छे से इस चीज पे डिस्कशन करा है कि वो जो मार्कशीट है, जिस अकॉर्डिंगली प्राइज मिल रहे हैं, वो मार्कशीट ही प्रेजेंट करती है। So secretary asked me कि मैं awards कम रखूं. Still, there's one best delegate, one high commendation, 3 special mentions and 2 verbal mentions. Okay. So verbal mentions से start करेंगे. तो in no particular order, नितिन गडकरी जी and निर्मला सीतारमण जी. इनका डिफरेंस सिर्फ 3 मार्क्स का है. बहुत अच्छे से किया इन लोगों ने, काफी अच्छा प्रेजेंट किया, एंड कंसिडरिंग कि ये अभी इतने सीजनल एम्यूनर्स ही हैं, ये भी कोई ज्यादा अच्छे हुए नहीं, फर्स्ट टाइम वाला सीजनल, बहुत कम एम्यून करे और बहुत अच्छे से उन्होंने प्रेजेंट करे, पार्टिसिपेशन बहुत अच्छी थी इनकी ओवरऑल। स्पेशल मेंशन इन पर्टिकुलर ऑर्डर, सो स्पेशल मेंशन 3 अमित शाह जी, देन स्पेशल मेंशन 2 मनीष सिसोदिया जी, एंड स्पेशल मेंशन 1 प्रकाश जावड़ेकर जी। इनके में 38, 37, 36 एक एक पॉइंट के इससे पूरा हुआ है। So now we have best delegate and high commendation. Again, ये margin, अगर मैं ये बेस्ट डेल और हाई कॉम की बात नहीं होती तो फिर मैं दोनों को देने का प्रेजेंट करता। इनमें दोनों में से 0.15 मार्क्स का डिफरेंस, सिर्फ 0.15 मार्क्स से एक बेस्ट डेलीगेट है और एक हाई कॉम है। तो फिर भी एक एक ये सिर्फ सीख उनके लिए रहेगी, क्योंकि दोनों को देखना है कि इन दोनों ने कुछ कमी नहीं करी, कोई हाई मार्जिन, कोई एक डेलीगेट नहीं था जो बहुत हाई मार्जिन से ऊपर चला गया, कंपटीशन बहुत पास था। और मैं इसलिए दोनों को बेस्ट डेल नहीं दे रहा, क्योंकि आई रियली वांट टू नो कि एक एक 0.1, 0.2 मार्क्स मैटर कर, तो सिर्फ 0.51 मार्क्स के डिफरेंस से हमारे बेस्ट डेलीगेट और हमारे हाई कॉम अलग अलग होते हैं। High commendation is Sitaram Yechuri ji with 51.52 marks, and best delegate our Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi ji 52.03 marks. So congratulations, and I really hope कि आप और अच्छे से करेंगे। और जो भी आपने, मैं क्या बोलूँ, आपके मार्क्स से आप देखिए एक बहुत स्टडी ग्रोथ रही आप सबकी, और कुछ लोगों को मैं पहले से जानता हूँ और उनकी ग्रोथ देख के मुझे काफी अच्छा लगा कि उन्होंने कितना इम्प्रूव करा। ये चीज बहुत ज्यादा अच्छी लगी मेरे को, दिल से अच्छी लगी कि आपने जिस तरीके से 2 दिन एमयू में डिस्कशन किया। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, Utsav sir. It's always a pleasure to host you as one of the executive board members in our conferences. And congratulations to all the winners of All India Political Parties Meet. So yes, since we are coming to the conclusion of our conference, I would like to invite I would say the very base of a conference, the very first pillar of a conference on which stood a 10th grader student, Kavish Mittal, the founder and Secretary General of Emergent MUN. So Kavish, you have the floor.
Yeah, greetings everyone. So I will not take much of your time. So first of all, I would like to thank every guest speaker, our chief guest Dalit and Hof. So it was a great closing ceremony. It held really beautifully. I would really thank Agamjot sir and Utsav sir for announcing great awards. The thing that I found in the committee was the encouragement by the delegates. The delegates spoke really well, and the yesterday night socials, whosoever attended, guys, it was just planned half an hour ago, and I can just tell that the two people who are having their cameras on, Vimal sir and Harage sir, they both helped a lot taking the socials. The thing is that I was not the first pillar. The first pillar were there is no first pillar. There were many people who joined, and we keep joining, and we even had a secretariat. but due to some reasons they weren't able to speak due to time constraints. But I would just express my heartfelt gratitude, considering in the online platform the team that we needed we got. So not wasting much of your time, the Kavish Mittal, the Secretary General of Emergent MUN 1.0, declares the conference close.
Since the conference officially being closed, I would like to thank all the delegates, all the executive board members, and the secretariat to joining us on board, being a part of Emergent Model United Nations, and giving us a precious time from your very busy so-called schedule. So yes, thank you everyone.
Also, thank you everyone who joined us from the YouTube live. So thank you everyone, and we end the YouTube live stream now.